Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. When the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get cut. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is the 29th. It is Friday. We got some important stuff coming up here. Core PCE price index, big number. Also, we're going to get like personal income, personal spending. And Chicago PMI. I tell you what, though, the bonds, they doing stuff. The bonds are doing stuff, and it looks like we are going to be the stars. I don't know how I feel about that, but it looks like we may be the stars here for the next 2 weeks, especially with, Federal Reserve meeting next week. So let's come to the chart. We'll talk about what happened. Where is my chart? There it is, volume. This is hard to find it sometimes. Okay. ES. Okay, so the S&P 500, well, they did okay. I mean, they did okay yesterday. There was a pretty good run up from, the depression overnight. But then, around the close, really ugly downturn. I mean, we had some downturns earlier. A lot of congressional headlines and so forth seem to be affecting the markets. But then Apple earnings, oh my gosh. Apple and Amazon both down 5% overnight off of those earnings and just getting absolutely destroyed. Okay. Then over in bond land, you would think maybe that would be risk off sentiment. No, because the Australian Central Bank declined to do yield curve control again last night, and that increased their yields another 40 basis. So now they're at 75 basis points or something like that, right? It's that's a pretty crazy move. And we're now seeing global bonds start to be a little bit more impacted by this. And since we got, let's see here, do we have an auction today? I don't think that we have any more auctions, right? Yeah, we're done with the auctions. Although we do get New York Fed Treasury purchases. We may be in a setup now to start selling again. That kind of looks like the trend so far. But again, core PCE index, that's a really important number because the Federal Reserve that's their favorite measure of inflation. Okay. Going to other markets, oil did okay yesterday, a little bit of a move down starting here. We'll see. Natural gas, it looks like it might end the week coming back down. So that's really interesting. Gold and silver. When I was in the shower, it was still just at 1800, but it looks like that they're starting another down move. So is that, let's come over here and check really quick. Is that related to, no, it looks like they're just going down on their own. Okay. Gold and silver, not doing so well then. And copper, I'm going to say copper's still sideways. Bitcoin had a bit of they've had a number of crashes. I think that there are people getting out. I really think that these crashes are people selling ahead of taking sequential profits out of November. Okay, so here's the news coming through. Wow, am I that slow? I'm still waiting on the number here. It must be high. Well, gee. No liquidity in the 10-year, so I guess it doesn't even 1%. Matter, right?
And it's lower than the forecast of minus 0.3%.
So they're not putting any liquidity up there for us.
Over month, 0.3%, 0.3%, in line with the forecast of 0.3%. US employment costs 1.3%, 1.3%, higher than the forecast
really
of 0.9%.
About
US
the 6E
price index month over month.
Oh my, dollar index, big drop overnight.
In line with the forecast of 0.2%. The Canadian RMPI month over month, 2.5%, 2.5%. In line with the forecast of 2.5%. Canadian PPI year over year, 14.9%, 14.
My brother bought shit yesterday.
PCE price index month over month, 0.3%, 0.3% in line with the forecast of 0.3%.
Well, in a situation like that, because I remember my uncle, he was putting money into Dogecoin when it was going off crazy, and like I tried to teach him. Like my take on that was like,
on the markets, we did see some
teach him everything that I could teach him in that moment about trading, but like he got a pretty terrible entry, right? but with that one, if it's your brother, and it was $50. Then when that thing crashes, you have to give him, shit for the rest of his life about it. Right? Okay, is my 10-year actually updating? I don't think it is. I'm not entirely sure that it is. Look at that.
So the Canadian GDP report for September 2021 is available on the feed for those who'd like to read.
Okay, so I'm looking at the numbers here. It looks like core PCE price index spot 2 versus an expected spot 2. And where's the other number? I'm trying looking at it this way. Oh, I guess there isn't a non-core one. So that was in line. Personal income was bad, -1 versus an expected negative spot 2. That helps. Personal spending was in line. Employment cost index went up 1 spot 3 versus spot 9.
And the US consumer spending report for September 2021 is also
there's a little bit of a mix in there, but I don't think that on its own says higher bond yields. Not all by itself. Okay, so now are we gonna get some trades in the 10 years so that my DOM will reset? Okay, there we go. I think we're good on that. You bought leap options on BITO.
September 2021 report is also
that's the new ETF, right? You bought like calls? I shouldn't say anything, should I? I believe. I don't want to say that it's like a 100% thing, because I think that there still could be maybe some things that are unexpected or that I don't know about. But I believe that there's a very, very high probability of Bitcoin crashing in December. I think that we could start into a bear market in December in Bitcoin.
US employment cost report.
So if I was going to buy the Bitcoin ETF, for instance, I think I would be waiting until like March. But that's my take. Because I'm concerned about the Mt. Gox whale selling. I'm having some people saying, well, they won't necessarily have to sell all of it, but they are supposed to sell some Bitcoin for the customer restitution plan. So we'll see what happens. I guess if it's leaps, probably by the time probably by the time those come due and everything, you're fine. I just don't feel like you're going to be getting your best entry. Funware now accepts Bitcoin for light personal computers. Okay then. Why? I don't know why that stock was attached to the whole Donald Trump thing. That didn't make any sense. Oh my gosh, did McCoff actually say that? Okay, so where is this? This Virginia, right? Virginia governor running for re-election, having a tough time, and he said to a Fox reporter, let's kill Fox's story on hiring election challenge lawyer. That is a gaffe if I ever heard one. Oh my gosh. Probably not too pertinent to what's going on. Hey, by the way, yesterday, Democrats tried to do the vote on the reconciliation package to try and call the bluff of the liberal senators, but they was not bluffing, and the bill did not pass. So now they are saying that they have to pass the bigger bill first before they'll pass the reconciliation bill, essentially saying Republicans won't get any of the things that they want in the infrastructure bill unless we get everything that we want, and that kind of like tanks the whole thing. I don't know what they do from here. He said the voters about needing to get busy to get 11% of the population was pretty oof too. Yeah. I saw, let me see here. I saw a let's go to a conservative blog like Hot Air. Yeah, there's that story. But yeah, here it is. Youngkin 53 I don't even know how you say his name. McAuliffe 45. What? If this bears out on Tuesday, it will turn American politics upside down, and maybe not just on the Democratic side. What changed GOP enthusiasm? The race is largely focused on education, and this has energized Republicans, as 79% of Youngkin supporters are extremely interested in the election compared to 69% of... Okay, so that I would temper that a little bit, though, because what they're saying is that changed. The reason that there was such a big change was because their model about who was likely to turn up showed a change, right? Which I'm not saying that that's not the right way to do it. That's totally an effective way of doing it in polling, but it does slightly increase the chances of the poll being wrong if that's the key determinant, right? Like those, I think those are the weak points in polls is the turnout models, right? That finds movement in the views of parents. They backed McAuliffe by 10 points 2 weeks ago, and now they go for Youngkin by 14. On the question of which candidate they trust to handle education, Youngkin's previous 1 point edge among parents has widened to 12. Jeez. I wonder if in hindsight we won't look back and say that McAuliffe lost the election when he said that at that debate last month that parents shouldn't be telling schools what to teach. Oh yeah, that would end you right there. That would end you right there. He is the governor, right? Am I crazy? Or am I just telling you bull crap? Yep. 72nd governor of Virginia. With what they're doing in schools, people usually draw the line at their kids. So Democrats are trying to get people to sacrifice their kids to the state, and it's a hell of a gambit. Well, I don't think that that's actually what's going on. I understand why you would see it that way, though. I think that Democrats, wow, so we are getting some rate increases here, by the way. I don't think at the moment that it makes sense for me to be trying to put some orders in on this 10-year and on Friday either. Maybe after I'm just not going to take it when the spread is 5 ticks, man. I don't think that that's the right decision for me. So, okay, anyways, Democrats want to teach correct things in school. That's what's going on, right? And this is kind of another one of those like deeply ingrained psychological issues that was brought on by the conservative liberal fight over education in schools is where I think it really goes back to, right? Is that Democrats believe that evolution is science, and there's this pretty significant branches of science based on evolution that have some usefulness in trying to understand why humans and animals are the way that they are. And so they believe that it's important to be taught. And Republicans think that God created everything and that evolution is not the origin of the species, and that since evolution is an opinion, that it should be taught fairly, or that alternative possibilities should be presented, which that's how it was taught to me in school. Was they said here that evolution is a theory, here are alternative theories, and here are like some of the weaknesses in the theory and the strengths in the theory. But then they still teach all of the stuff about, okay, but like here's how we do like evolutionary psychology and all these other things, right? So that's where it originates from, right? But then I feel like the Democrats have taken it a step further as of late, because now Democrats are basically trying to make the argument that the parents just shouldn't have any control over what the kids learn in school. As though going to school is like our obligation, and our obligation to learn what the state wants us to learn. And there probably are some people out there that believe that, but I don't think that they really believe it in their hearts so much as it is that they're just kind of falling into a trap, because again, they've got like this, it's like this deep-seated like almost a virus in there, where it's like they get triggered when they hear about that they might be teaching something incorrect in school. They might be teaching religion in school. That really bothers them, right? And so they overreact. And that's what I think is going on. Yeah, I mean, the evolution versus science thing pales in comparison to teaching middle schoolers how to give blowjobs and teaching elementary school kids that they may want sex changes. Oh man, yeah. Some of that stuff is like, what? There are no alternative theories to evolution. Well, that's certainly not true. Whether those alternative theories are very are taken seriously is maybe a different question, but there are alternative theories. And the proponents of like creationism, for instance, do try and take a scientific approach to it, although I think that their approach is really more trying to poke holes in evolution rather than trying to prove their own thing correct, which is kind of a... But you see, I just leave it to Color to just kind of prove her point, right? See, like, here's the problem. Who fucking cares? Wait a second. Just stick with me for a second, Color. To even say that you think there are alternative theories shows you fundamentally don't understand science. Okay. Why do you fucking care if somebody comes in and says, well, some people don't believe in evolution and here's what they believe? Why is that a problem to tell people that? Why do you in particular care so much about that particular thing, right? Because the answer to that question, I think if you really dig deep down and you try and understand why, yes, that's true. Why do I care? Why do I think that this is an important issue? I think kind of reveals the whole thing. Okay, creationism is not true, and teaching it as if it is. Well, I never said that I was going to teach anybody that creationism was true. I said it's okay to tell people that there are alternative theories and that there are large numbers of people out there that believe that evolution is wrong. What is wrong with telling people that? It's true. There are large numbers of people out there that don't believe in evolution. Pretty a non-significant portion of the U.S. population. People have been telling me that I'm going to hell my whole life. I don't want that being taught. So here again, the problem is that you want to control what people believe, really. You want to say, no, we're not going to teach evolution because you don't like that teaching and you feel like that you've been persecuted for it in the past. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to go and get them when they're young and you're going to teach them that that's wrong, and then that won't be in the world anymore. That's the problem, right? That's where parents are like, then I'm taking my kids out of my school, because I do not want Keller to be the person that decides what my children are taught and not taught. Do you see the problem with that? You don't know what a scientific theory is. I do know what a scientific theory is, but it's wrong to try and use the schooling system to try and, how do we say this? It's wrong to try and leverage the schooling system to control people's beliefs. Okay. Creationism is a scientific hypothesis. Sure. One that I do not a theory. Well, no, I honestly, I kind of feel like that's just arguing semantics, dude. About the court cases were about whether creationism was a theory or a hypothesis. Listen, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The dogs already went outside. They need to leave me alone. Well, should I be short the treasuries? I'm kind of hands off with, because I just really don't like the liquidity on here, but they are pushing it hard. They're pushing it hard. I did expect rates to increase here. It kind of looks to me at the moment that they were waiting on that news, and then the news didn't really change anything, and so it was like the global bond sell-off continues. I'm not comfortable taking a trade in this liquidity, dude. This is so hard for me to watch, because I really, really want to be long rates, but taking L, man. I saw that story, Greg. I was like, what the heck is that guy thinking? It is really, I think it's really a problem, though, between like the far left, which is basically Keller here, and the majority of the United States population. Like, I think that the vast majority of Americans would say that it's okay to say in a textbook that a lot of people don't believe in evolution, and that there are other theories, or rather people have explanations that they think explains what we see, that is different from evolution. Okay, that doesn't mean that those theories are valid or anything like that, but it's the difference between telling somebody all of the information that is out there and helping them come to the correct understanding on their own, versus trying to shove what you think is the correct thing down their throat. See, this is like this whole thing about the way that people are going through with science, is that like the whole point of the scientific method, and in particular empirical evidence, is to have a system in which you can very effectively prove something to somebody else so that there's no question. So you don't have to come in and force the idea on them. You just show them the empirical evidence, and any rational person that looks at that empirical evidence is going to come to the correct understanding. And if they don't, there was never anything that you could do about it. But they don't try and go down that route. They don't try and argue it with science. They just try and say, nope, this is the way that it is. Anybody that says this is wrong. And we can't be having them teach that in school. And why do you say that? Because you want to control the way people think. You've got to understand this, Keller. This is the thing I've been trying to teach you. I don't know how to get it through. You cannot control how people think. Trying to using those kinds of means to influence their thinking. What is the word? What is the word? It's kind of like forceful manipulation. It backfires. It's very bad. People don't like it. They know when you're doing it. They tend to reject it, and it works out very, very poorly for you politically. What you got to do is you got to show them the empirical evidence and let them come to the correct conclusion. But when they detect coercion, they immediately are like, oh, okay. And what are you doing? You're trying to coerce their kids into believing evolution instead of just presenting the science, right? And that's always going to be a loser politically. And this is why this guy in Virginia is losing. Shall we also teach the controversy in alternative theories about the Holocaust? Well, so I think that you don't necessarily have to, well, so let's see here. Let me think about this for a second. How should I approach this? I mean, obviously, there are some people out there that believe in the Holocaust, and clearly they're wrong. I mean, there's ample historical evidence to prove that that particular thing happened. And even, I think there are some people that try and argue that it wasn't as bad as people think. No, it was bad. Okay. It was bad. I think the difference, the big difference that I would see between the Holocaust and evolution is that you don't have like 40% of the United States that think that the Holocaust didn't happen, right? It's not a significant cultural issue, whereas evolution is, right? And I just don't think that it's wrong to come in and say that, X percent, I would, the way that I was presented in my books was that, like, here was the theory of evolution, and then it was like, here are our public opinions on evolution right now. Like X majority of Americans believe in evolution. Some percent believe in creationism. You can tell them what creationism is. No, I don't. I completely understand. You see, you missed the point of the conversation, Ace. You missed the bit. This is another thing that I see people on the left do that here again is extremely ineffective, right? I'm trying to help you out here, right? I'm trying to help you liberals out. This is the thing that drives me so nuts is I'm trying to help you liberals out how to make an argument that is both convincing to people and is effective politically. I might not always be the best at convincing people. I find it so incredibly difficult to try and convince people that, like, for instance, orders have impact, that markets are quite statistically efficient. It's like nobody believes me. I don't get it. Why, what is it that I got to do to convince them? Because it's not just like, I'll say something, but then there's people that will reject it. It's like, no, I'm not seeing the people coming in and saying, oh yes, these all make sense. You've presented the evidence that is very effective at showing this thing. That's going to completely change the way that I see trading. I don't see it. They don't do it. It's like they're not convinced. Okay. I'm trying to help you out here. I'm not arguing whether or not evolution is a fact, Ace. I'm arguing that using coercion to bring people to a belief in evolution is a really poor tactic. To come in and to say, here, because I'm arguing about this, oh, so you're wrong about evolution. You understand that any person that would be arguing with you on that particular topic, as soon as you come in and you say something like that, what do you think that person is thinking? Man, Ace is a big asshole. Like, anything that you say after that on this subject, they're going to completely, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but you know why I'm saying this? It's because I do this when I was a kid. That's how I was, man. And my dad would always try to tell me that, like, you realize as soon as you start to say you think and this is dumb, people turn off. Well, what was the point? Trying to use the education people to coerce people to beliefs is wrong. That's not the way that we do it in a free society. That is not the American way. The American way is you present empirical evidence and you make an argument and you have such a solid scientific process that when you present the information, no rational person can deny it. And if they do deny it at that point, there was never anything that you could have done. And you move on. But that's not what they're doing. They're saying there are certain things that we want people to believe, and so we are going to coerce them into believing those things by leveraging the education system so that we can control what America's future youth believe about certain issues like, say, evolution or sex education. It's wrong. It's wrong, and parents are not going to let you do it. And if you come out in a debate and you say, well, you parents you don't get to say what's taught in school. You're gonna lose. Because really, the swing in that Virginia race is pretty extreme, right? That's been done. Evolution is settled science. I would say largely. Well, actually, here's the thing. Like, that evolution happens, 100%, 100% proven. And that evolution has happened throughout time, like, because you can go back and you can look at the fossil records and you can kind of see how evolutions have happened. Okay, so that's very true. But in terms of the origin of the species, I mean, is that really something that you'll ever be able to, like, prove? I feel like that's something that, like, unless you can go back with a time machine and you can see every from the very first microorganism that formed in the sea and watched the development of every organism that has lived on this planet since, and then you could, like, conclusively prove it, right? It's been done enough to a point that I think that for the purposes of any kind of a scientific endeavor that we're talking about that would be related to evolution, that you can say that is true. Yeah, 100%. But that's not the point. The point is that you don't come in and you teach in the school, well, here is evolution. There are, and then just ignore that anybody ever has a different opinion about it. Right. And in particular, if you come in and you say, well, some people do believe that God is the origin of the species and that God put animals on the earth, and then since that point they've been evolving or something of that nature. Okay, is it such a big deal if you put that in the textbook? If that's what the parents want, I think it's fine, because it doesn't harm people to teach people all of the beliefs out there. It doesn't harm them, and when it's something that's that big of a cultural flashpoint and that so many people disagree on vehemently, I feel that you're kind of obligated to let the kids in on the debate, right? And if you've done your job correctly, the kids will go, oh, well, yeah, except for that these guys have empirical evidence and these guys don't, right? Do I also teach a flat Earth? How can we? I think you could. Well, you wouldn't teach it. So here's the thing. First of all, there isn't a, well, maybe there are in some scientists. And when I was going through school, there was not a chapter called "The Earth is Round" and then goes through the history of it. That just never came up. But if there was a textbook in there, "The Earth is Round," you could come in and you could say, as lately, there's been a bunch of people that believe that the Earth is flat. And then I actually think that it would be really beneficial to try and teach the kids in school, like what some of the people believe about that the Earth is flat. Because when you start teaching it to them, it's so obvious how stupid it is. Like, I tell you what, I have learned so much. I have learned so much about science from watching videos of people debunking flat Earth theories. I thought I knew. I was into space and stuff when I was a kid. I thought I knew a lot about those things. But there are so many teeny tiny little things that you would never, a person like me, you never think about. And some flat earther comes up with some theory, and then you have to get into like more advanced science to defeat it. It's really interesting. I think the misconception here is differentiating between teaching a subject and simply letting people know that a subject exists. Yeah, sure. But like, I think that there's another big thing here. Is there like a 40% of the what is it? Public survey creationism. 65% of Americans say that humans and living things evolved over time, versus 31% believe they existed in present form since the beginning. Okay, so let's say 30%. Okay, 30% of Americans believe this. I feel like that's enough that you can acknowledge it. Okay, it's like 0.01% of Americans that believe that the Earth is flat, right? So it's not really a pertinent question. Like really, when it comes down to it, you can teach the kids anything. I mean, as long as the information that you're teaching them is based on empirical evidence or is about history, and like for instance saying that 65% of Americans believe in evolution, that's empirical because they've done a survey about it, right? Okay, you can teach them anything. It's just that there's a limited amount of time in the school curriculum. Right? What do you spend time on? The fact that you have this conversation says to me that it's something worth talking about at school. Because I don't want my kids to be coming in and I'm totally cool. They believe in evolution. So I certainly think that it's scientifically valid. I don't want them turning around and then saying, okay, let's use evolution let's try and coerce everybody through the school system to believe in this thing. I don't want them to be saying that. And I don't want them to go out there and assume that, not realize that not everybody believes in evolution and then be shocked when they meet somebody that doesn't, because, that's like 3 in 10 Americans. And it, particularly in Utah, it's going to be most people that you meet, right? We don't teach based on, but you can teach people what current American attitudes on issues are. Understanding what Americans' current attitudes on things are a really important way of understanding why the world behaves the way that it does in this day, right? I've watched enough teacher TikToks to know teachers focus heavily on batshit ideas. Yeah, well, this is kind of a, I think that the Mormon Church accepts evolution. The Mormon Church is, I really don't like to debate the Mormon Church. Here's the thing. If you want to know what the Mormon Church thinks about a particular issue, you just go to fairmormon.org. This is why I really don't like to talk about it. I have like a different approach to it, I think that there are some things that it's like proving whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Okay. To me, it doesn't matter. But if you want to debate it, I don't really see a point in debating it, because there is a resource online, fairmormon.org, that is so thorough. It is so thorough that it's like almost dumb for me to even try and talk about it, because you could just go and search up whatever that issue is on the page and you would know everything that there is to know about it. Like I've never seen a subject that was so thoroughly and effectively documented in that way to the point at which it practically makes it unproductive to even talk about. You know what I mean? It's an awful apologist. I think it's a really, really super effective. Like they cover it's a wiki. They have put so much time into that thing, man. And the thing is that to really add to that body of knowledge, you have to have really advanced knowledge on that subject and the history and stuff. It's at the point at which, like, I don't care anymore. It's a great website. They tell you a very, very what the accusation is, and then like what the church's response to it is, and it's like, what else are you gonna say? Like, that's, you see both sides of the argument there, and then it's like, okay, you make up your mind. I don't know what it means to have a subject I don't like talking about. Well, to me, if I'm going to talk about something, I feel like there needs to be a purpose behind it, right? Like, I mean, I do like arguing, but I also like arguing in that I think that arguing helps you increase your own understanding about a subject and other people's understanding about a subject, and understand how people work and think, and what are the best ways to convince them, and things like that. And there can be benefit from it, but when it comes down to trying to prove or disprove a specific set of religious beliefs, it's like, why bother? If there's a particular belief that they have that you think is harmful, then argue that particular belief, man. and make the point on that particular belief. I wouldn't want to contest it with an internet chat either. Yeah. Hey, NASDAQ trader. But there's this other side to it too, which is right. They don't actually want to argue it, right? If they could coerce you, if they could, I feel like that if they could use a ray that would change every person in the world's opinion on Mormonism and evolution, that they would do it. And I just don't think that that's right. It's not moral. You shouldn't use coercion to influence people's beliefs. It's not. It's not an effective way to run society. An effective way to run society is to allow the free expression of ideas and to allow people to come to their own conclusions and to try and present the best evidence available to convince them of your position, and to not make them feel like that they're being coerced into it, or that you're trying to brainwash their kids, So it's interesting here that the Treasury's, the 10-year has reversed on that quite a bit now, but the micros didn't really come back as much. The micros should have come back twice as much as they did. Education will change people's belief if they care about truth. I think so. So I kind of don't like understand the whole argument. I mean, I think I've seen some states, not Utah. I've seen some states where they was like they had to spend a whole week of teaching about creationism. That seems kind of silly to me. But to that point, if that's what the parents want to be taught in the school, then it should be. Like school is a service, right? Like this is another thing that I really hate. Here's what it really comes down to, right? I believe that social services, or sorry, let me what's the right word to use? I believe that government programs and services are services that we as voters have agreed to fund and are there for us, and that we control. And if we want those services or we don't want those services anymore, then we, through our elected officials, can make that happen. I don't think that people on the left see it that way. I think that people on the left see it as these services are like necessary things and that we as people are obligated to allow them to be there. And so when they apply that to education, they say it's our obligation to have school be a certain way. When I don't see it that way, I see that school is a service that I pay for. And if that service is not working the way that I want it to, I should be able to have the choice to not use it. Right? Because that's what they'll do. If you come in and you start telling parents you don't get any control over the curriculum at all, then they're just going to take their kids out of school, right? And you've made the problem worse. Parents are free to teach. No, I think that the school is free to teach the kids whatever batshit false ideas they want, if that's what the people really want. I don't think that anybody's trying to push that. You don't have to set your sets to the schools that teach truths about the world and favor to favor your pet beliefs. Parents should be the primary determinant of what gets taught in the school. Or I guess they shouldn't be the primary determinant, right? They are the parents are a gateway, right? They are a check. We put experts and that are experts on schooling that determine a curriculum, but ultimately the curriculum that they have has to pass through the parents. Parents are often the worst thing that happens to their kids. That's not your decision to make. That's not your decision to make. You shared your beliefs to your kids and they went extreme left on you. Doesn't matter if it's true or not, Ace. It's irrelevant.
European Union announces a reduction in its NGEU funding target.
It's not your place to decide whether what I teach my kids is good for them or not. There's nothing else to say. It doesn't matter if it's true, we go there right there, but you teach what you want. But in schools, we teach facts. Well, I agree that in schools we should teach facts, but not everybody agrees with that. And because school is a service, if the majority of the people in the area wanted to teach something else, then that's their prerogative. Okay, if the majority of people in South Carolina want creationism to be taught in their schools, that is their choice. I have no obligation to the school or the government. Government serves me. And I only serve the government in as much as that the government is there for the benefit of all people. This move is going to completely retrace in the 10-year. I'm sure glad that I haven't touched it. Spread has closed. I'm not seeing quite as much liquidity on the inside as we normally would. Maybe it's the case that the 10-year yield probably should have traded like way further down, but they just didn't because of the liquidity. Because here you can see like the 10-year has come back a lot, almost like 14 ticks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10. And this is like 4 ticks off of the low, so that's kind of weird. Progressive fundamentally view them as evolved. You really think so? I don't think that that's true. But it still comes down to like the thing is that maybe you're right, because these two at the very least do believe that they can and that they should use the school system to brainwash your kids into what they want to believe, what they want them to believe. That's essentially what they think. They think, yes, creationism is true, and it's important that kids know that that is true, and we should use any means that through which we have to teach that in the school and turn them away from any contrary belief, any belief to otherwise. Because they want the kids to grow up and not go to, not be religious, basically. And so they think that the school is a really great way to enact that change. They're trying to enact change by changing the school curriculum. They're trying to enact cultural change through the school system. I think that's wrong. Who are they? Ace and Keller. It's funny that we got stuck on this topic today. But it's probably good. I don't think that it would be wise for me to be taking trades right now. Oh no, you know what? I know what's going on here. Is that I have it all backwards, right? We're like 4 ticks off, but that's from the low, right? This is how much we came back. So we came back the appropriate amount. It's just that they didn't have this spike up here. The micros didn't have this spike on the other side before the open. And the reason that you don't see that is because they had already pulled the liquidity. Gotcha. They believe a child is a consenting adult. Well, I don't know. There's this whole thing I've seen on the left where they seem to think that children, that it would be good for children to be involved in sexual activities. I don't know. I don't understand what it is about their philosophy that creates that perception. But because this was an idea that came out in the 70s, but there's been a lot of research that has come out since then that really proves how absolutely harmful it is to children. So yeah, well, no, yeah. See, so for those of you that are just tuning in and you don't understand why we're talking about this, here's why we're talking about this, okay? The governor of Virginia, whose name I don't know how to pronounce, said in a debate that the parents get no say on what their children are taught in school, and he's going to lose the governorship because of it. And I tried to explain to them why this is a really dumb thing to say politically. But apparently there are some people here in this channel that seem to think that McAuliffe is correct. And I guess they don't understand the point that parents are not going to let you coerce their children's beliefs, that their parents are going to teach their kids what they want to teach their kids. And that's the way it should be, frankly. But if you want to try and fight against that, you're more than welcome, because I love winning elections. It's just I'm trying to help you because I don't like it when I win elections because the left was stupid. You get what I mean? Right? Like I would like the Republicans to win because they had a more effective argument and they have more effective policy. And when they only win because the left is so stupid, like what has been happening lately, it's not good for the country. That's why I try and help the liberals. But apparently I just can't seem to get them out of their own way, even when we see like a 10-point swing in a governor's race over it. So Ace, why do you feel like that it would be an effective tactic to try and straw man my comments? Well, Joseph Charbonne, the thing that you don't understand is that the modern left is authoritarian. They only care about power. They do not care if people believe what is correct. They just want submission. You might be right. Well, like, here's the thing. I don't think that Ace believes that. But I do think that people on the left tend to go that way. It's like I feel like that there's somebody somewhere that wants the United States to be communist or something like that. And they go in and they say, okay, well, in order to get what we want, we need to be authoritarian. And so we can't necessarily just come out and say, well, we should be an authoritarian country. But maybe what are some beliefs that we can kind of program into people that would lead to the result that we want? And so then, like I said, you'll get like hyper focused on an issue, right? So they're all hyper focused on that. I don't believe in evolution and it gets taught in school, right? They're so focused on that it's like they can't see the larger argument here, which is that, like, people can believe what they want to believe. and the government is there to serve the people. What we do in school is a service that the government provides for the people because we've voted to be able to provide it. And the people should have a say in what is taught, even if it's wrong. Even if the particular thing that they want taught is not true. Do you think that they're talking past each other? Is school free? Well, it's not. I mean, we pay taxes, right? We pay taxes to fund it. Let's say, in a hypothetical world, that education didn't cost anything because we had a societal I don't know. Because we have some magical machine that magically provides the resources as long as it's education. Okay. We have a magical machine that creates all of the resources that we need to teach our kids, all of their school supplies, everything, the money to provide for the people that teach. That all just magically comes out of thin air. Okay, in such a world. Okay. Sorry, NASDAQ trader has a question here. Can the limit order book on stocks be displayed in Jigsaw? My understanding is that they do not have that feature yet in Jigsaw. I think that you kind of can in Bookmap, but you just need to realize that full order book data in stocks is still not really very available. Are you still looking for indicator that identifies when the market is ranging versus trending? So, oh man, I want to talk about that. I want to finish this other conversation. I was saying, like, what if everything was magically provided? What is your obligation as people, right? Like, because I think that some people think of school as like you have to do it. That is, it is your natural duty as a person that exists to go to school and believe what the government tells you to. That's what I hear, and I don't see it that way. School is a service that I as a voter voted for, and it should serve my needs. And if it doesn't, then I would get rid of it. Or not use it, at least. Anyways, I digress. Okay, so Gus's question. So I've been down the road that you're going down, Gus, and I don't think that it's useful. I don't think that it's useful. So here's the problem with what you're saying, with the road that you're going to go down. We can create indicators that could give us an indication of how ranging or trending the current market is. Okay. The problem with that is that such an indicator will not be predictive of how ranging or trending the market is likely to be. And so the trap that you will find yourself falling into over and over and over again is you say, okay, it's trending right now, so I want to take a trend. And then all of a sudden you take the trade there and it stops. It doesn't go anywhere. You're like, what the hell? Right? Or vice versa. It's in a range. And so you say, oh, okay, well, I should be able to buy it on this side and just scalp a little bit out of it. But then it turns into this crazy trend against you and you get stopped out and you miss the trend. Right? Again, current market, not really very predictive of the future market, especially when we're talking about like price. Like, what is current price doing? Is it ranging or trending? Is extremely unpredictive of future price. Okay, so to solve the problem that you're having, right, is probably market is trending and you try and fade it, right? And that's usually what it comes down to. I mean, that's usually what draws us to this problem in the beginning. For me, it was, I'm always expecting the market to trend and it doesn't go anywhere. And then I take a bunch of trades that go nowhere, right? Okay. So how do we fix this problem? Well, we got to go back to our main framework. Okay. So our main framework is three things. Okay. Number one, markets are more statistically efficient than they are informationally efficient. Number two, the informed trader always has an advantage. And number three, orders move markets. So when we go from that framework, what we should be saying is, what do I know that may predict how future orders are likely to come out. And in particular, what do I know that may predict that a change in the orders is about to come,
now pricing 10
right?
basis
Or
points
has come,
rate hikes by October,
right? That maybe it's
RPR.
that it has come, and it's likely that change is likely to continue or accelerate. Okay, that's really kind of the framework that we really want to take things from. And then, what can I see in the liquidity that may help me with that? Okay, so let's try working that out based on what we have in the market right now. Okay, so what information do we have about today? Well, number one, it's Friday and it's the end of the month. So on the end of the month, we know that there is a historical tendency for treasuries to rise because people buy inventory for the month. There is a tendency for funds to rebalance. So based on what we did for the month, and I guess because we were up for the month, you might see some people reallocate funds to different portions of their portfolio, rebalancings. Okay, which might be a drag on equities today, but I'm in this situation, I'm not sure that that would have a significant impact. Okay. Then we had some news today, right? We had the core PCE, which is the Federal Reserve's favored inflation metric. It was in line with expectations. Okay. And then future and possible future, we have Chicago PMI at 745, right? There could be news coming out from Congress, potentially, because they failed that vote yesterday. So that's another thing that could come in. And there might be like Friday dumps. So that's another thing. On Friday, there's dumps, but it would be too early. They do that after the market. So I guess that doesn't actually count. Forget I said that thing. Okay. So those are all of the things that we know. Okay. And the other thing that we know, the big one, was that the central bank in Australia declined to enforce their yield curve control, and that has led to higher rates. Okay. So, based on what we know, when we try and sort that all out, it's a little fuzzy. In today's situation, isn't it? Because we should expect that there will be flows pushing for higher rates. We should expect to see that. But we should also expect to potentially see some end of month flows buying. So I don't know which one is going to be bigger or not, so I can kind of sort that out, right? But now I know what we've got. Now I can look at the current market, okay? And what do we see about the current market that will help us in deciding this? Well, for starters, there's about 3,200 being bid or offered in the 10-year treasury at each price right now, which is less, right? Yesterday it was like 4,500, okay? 4,500. So what does that tell us? That tells us that market makers are not as willing to take fills or provide liquidity. They must see the market similar to how we do, where there's a bunch of different factors and we're not necessarily sure which way they're going to go. Okay. We can also see that it doesn't take very much volume for them to push through. I mean, here, there was 1,700 here, 1,500 here, but generally, that's not a lot. I don't see any like 3,000s anywhere, right? So the market is moving around back and forth since this news. So the news pushed them down and then it just swashed back. Okay. The liquidity is not really holding it. Okay.
In 10 minutes time at 9.
So what does that mean?
US Chicago PMI, previous 64.7.
If one of those flows come in that is going to push for higher rates, or the end of month flow comes in, they're going to move it quite a bit because the market makers aren't holding anything, right? But if that doesn't happen, we may see it rotate around 120, which is the point of control, or where the hole was essentially, may rotate, but it may be able to rotate a little bit further than it normally will because of the liquidity, right? So if I come out and I see somebody take like an aggressive move down, or it just kind of, it falls down a little bit too much, or maybe I see a correlation somewhere. Right now, gold is really getting slaughtered today. So that's curious to me, right? Then I could determine when the trend is, that might help me detect when that trend is starting, right? It might come after the Chicago PMI, right? So what I would want to see is Chicago PMI, they sort that out, but let's just say the Chicago PMI is in line with expectations too. Then I'm going to be watching and seeing, okay, which flow comes in here? Which flow comes in here, right? And I can use that to determine so I'm not saying, are we ranging or are we trending? I'm trying to use the information that I know and what I can see in the liquidity at this moment to try and detect if we're going to change from ranging to trending or from trending to ranging and vice versa, right? And no indicator can show that to you. So know that that's not what you wanted to hear, but I hope that all made sense. Now, in my empirical studies as to whether we're ranging or trending, I think the two best indicators that I've seen on this are 1, average true range, and 2, R squared. R squared is probably the best measure of is there autocorrelation in the market or not, which is really what you're looking for, right? Well, E-mini here for the first 7 minutes looks okay, right? I wonder if Ace took a trade. I'm sure he probably did. Well, actually, no, I'm not so sure he would have. Unless he had taken one while we were arguing. I should have kept talking about evolution. You guys went quiet now. Okay, Gus says it helped. Okay, good. Right? That one I got to give special attention to because I spent 4 years just thinking if I could just figure out when it's ranging or trending, because you probably see it. It's like, if I know that it's going to trend or I know that it's going to range, I just absolutely kill it, right? Okay, so now we're seeing an iceberg at 11. There's a change there, right? I wasn't really paying attention to it to see how it went through, if that volume all came in at once or not, but that might be a clue there, right? It's a little too early though for us to read too much into it. Zero hedge, everything you need to know. Oh my gosh. Did you guys see this whole thing about Facebook changing their name? What do you mean by Dom not full in stocks? I don't know what you're saying. It's difficult to get level 2 data for stocks. When you do have level 2 data, you have to realize that because these things are traded on multiple exchanges, that it's more complicated than that, right? And then maybe the other thing that you might have to think about in full, as terms of full, is that here in
at 9:45 a.m. Eastern
futures,
time, the US Chicago PMI,
we have very heavy liquidity. There's liquidity at basically every price available. Stocks, there's usually a pretty big spread between the best bid and ask. So that changes things. So did you guys see this whole thing yesterday about Facebook is going to change their name? Which it's kind of weird to me. So when I go and I read the comments online and everything, the way that I see it presented is, well, Facebook has been getting bad press yesterday, and so they're going to try and change their name to get away from the bad press. That makes zero sense to me. That just seems like a dumb theory. They're like one of the largest companies in the world. Freaking everybody uses Facebook, even if they don't want to. Like, 80% of people have a Facebook account. We all know that they changed their name. Like, changing their name to get away from the bad press. I just can't imagine why anybody would think that works or would work. No. I don't think that that's what's going on. Here's what I think is going on. I think that Mark Zuckerberg is enamored with this idea of a metaverse, and that he wants to be the primary player in that world of a metaverse.
EU Sefcovic, when asked the UK to engage constructively with EU proposals.
So when I start thinking about that, here's the problem that I have.
EU Sefcovic asked the UK to engage constructively.
I'm not so sure that the metaverse is actually that big of a deal.
Spokesperson.
Yeah, he wants to make Ready Player One. That's exactly what he wants to do. That's exactly what he wants to do. It's just that I really don't think that an application like Ready Player One makes sense. Honestly, what is this drive to have this huge centrally controlled application when you can just have individual games and applications? You get what I mean? They want to have a framework that everybody else can build their application on top of, right? Which, like, does it provide benefits? Like, the only benefit that I see in that system is that when you go and buy a character avatar, you could carry it between different games. Like that's the advantage to it, right? Is that like a huge deal? I don't know, because I don't know how much, you want to play as Gundam. You want your character to be Gundam, and then you want to carry it over into a different game where it's a completely different aesthetic, and you have, like, what game maker wants to do that, right? If you're going to have games, then you're going to want to have your own characters that meet the aesthetic of your game, right? And so then you could go in and you could say, well, one of the applications, though, could be trying to create more real world spaces, and kind of the same thing that like Second Life or VR Chat has done, right? Okay, so now we're talking about the Facebook version of VR Chat. Are you going to use that? Like, there's people that are into VR Chat. And it looks like a cool thing. It doesn't look like my thing, but it looks like that they enjoy it and everything. But it looks to me like a niche thing. Okay, so by the way, I forgot, Chicago PMI comes out early. I didn't actually see a significant move there, so I'm going to bet here that the Chicago PMI is going to come in pretty close to the estimate at 63.5 here in like 30 seconds. Meta is a name with no creativity. Come on, they should have thought about something more creative. Call it 1984 and we are done. Zuckerberg freaks me out. I think that this is a case of like a billionaire getting an idea in his head and trying to force the whole thing to happen. And I'm not so sure that it's really going to happen. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, because a lot of Wall Street likes Facebook. Like, they think it's like well valued and stuff. I think the only other stock that's like more broadly liked is Zillow Group, but strangely enough, which I own, by the way.
68 spot 4, higher than forecast of 63 spot 7.
It was higher than forecast. It was 68 spot 4 versus an expected 63 spot 5. So we might see some selling order flow come in here, right? Like, it might be worth just taking it at 1 spot 605 in anticipation of that flow. But they seem a little bit unimpressed for some reason. Why is that? Excuse me. Young people are migrating away from Facebook. I can't tell you how many times I've heard Facebook is for old people from friends. If a MySpace couldn't survive, I still contest it. Stands to reason eventually Facebook will die. That MySpace was more fun. You know what? I mean, I remember MySpace. I thought it was dumb. To be honest, like MySpace was basically like who has the best profile, who has the most followers on their profile, and like you really never got anything more out of it. Facebook, on the other hand, at first it was just kind of for fun, and it was a great way to connect with people, so that was useful. But when it really became popular, it was because they added utility to it. Like, it was such an effective marketing tool for a while. You could go and you could create events. Like, that was a big factor behind the rave scene exploding back in like the early mid 2000s, late 2000s. Well, really late 2000s into 2010, right? Because Facebook had like events and channel pages, and artists could promote themselves through Facebook and generate these huge followings on Facebook. But then what happened was that Facebook screwed themselves over in trying to become monetized. That's really what I think happened. Was all of a sudden you couldn't really promote yourself through a page on Facebook. You couldn't really make events and have an event go viral and get tons of people to your event or anything like that. It wasn't an effective marketing tool anymore unless you put a ton of money behind it. And even then, at that point, it was really more advertising than it was social networking,
Brexit
right?
Chiefs are to meet in Brussels on November 3rd.
At that point, the only purpose in Facebook was to sit and listen to what your friends and family are saying on social issues, and it turns out that none of us actually want to or enjoy doing that. You know what I mean? And I think that's what killed Facebook. So then what did they do? They moved over to a platform that felt more genuine and that had the discovery again. And that's really what it comes to. I'm telling you what, the social, here's the edge on this thing. The social network platform with the best discovery will always be the hot one among the youth. So until a system comes along that is better at getting you discovered than TikTok, it's going to be TikTok. Right? Instagram killed Facebook. TikTok killed Instagram. By the way, why did they move to Instagram? Was there something special about Instagram that Facebook couldn't do, especially when they bought Instagram? No, it was just there was better discovery on Instagram. And then when they started tightening things down and it turned into you have to have these really specially curated posts and really think about your tag strategy and everything so that you can get in the algorithm and go viral through Instagram, then people stopped using it. It's 100% about discovery. What causes restricted range lately? Are there more sophisticated execution and algorithms in place? Well, are you just talking about in the S&P 500? I think that what you're seeing in the S&P 500 is that the effect of our monetary policies is that it reduces volatility.
71.4. University of Michigan conditions final.
So VIX gets super low, and then
77.9.
scalping starts to get really frustrating.
67.2. Previous 67.
And NQ, okay, the same thing. In the equities markets, what you're seeing in the equities markets is that monetary policy reduces volatility. And so we're starting to enter into a regime potentially. Well, actually, it could go one of two ways, right? Because it could turn into these supply issues are such a big problem and the coming monetary policies are such a big problem that the S&P 500 actually becomes quite volatile and starts throwing fits. But if everything turns out okay, then what you're likely to see is reduced volatility in equities. And then if you want to know how to trade that, basically go and look at a chart of 2017. But I'll give you the spoiler alert here is what you're going to find is that day trading starts to really, really suck. And the only person that really wins is the people that are buying and holding index funds. So trade appropriately. It'll turn into you catching just a small part of the range. I was playing on demo in low 45, 60s, had like 13 longs a day. Scalping practice I did was we pump at the open, woke up around 5 a.m. from that. I don't know. The 2017 market was not my favorite market, especially not in the treasuries. But it looks like that for at least the next week or two that the treasuries are going to be the star, maybe. Because you notice like the rates have been increasing and this has been driven by other central banks. And now we're going to have the US next week. So that kind of sets the stage, I think. Here again, we're trying to use information to try and predict future order flow, right? I think that sets the stage for the treasuries to become quite volatile next week, right? Especially if the end result is higher rates. Oh boy, then it could really get like, whoa. So the treasuries came back up there. So did you see how I kind of used my expectations of the flow and what I was seeing in the flow at the time to determine whether I should take a trade or not, right? Because my theory going into that was, actually Chicago PMI was a bit higher than expected. So maybe we will see some of that selling flow come into the treasuries. But it was kind of lackadaisical about it. And look, now we're moving up. So that was kind of my hint that maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's end of month flows and we're going to buy now. But, now it's kind of like, well, the right trade would have been to have bought. The right trade would have been to buy, or here on the micros to sell one spot 605. And now at this point, I would maybe be trying to get out at 595, right? Because I don't know if I have something that tells me that we're going to bust all the way up to the highs and then some for me to really want to try and hold it. Could happen. No, it could happen because we have been getting moves like that lately. Tesla is still hanging out at 1090, so you can't be a super bear. Well, I would, it's how Amazon and Apple trade today that are probably the bigger deals, right? I'm betting that they recovered quite a bit of that overnight action, though, yeah. Especially since we're back up here on the indexes. Oh, I'm just remembering somebody asked me, it was somebody new, and we were just so focused on something else. They asked me about the DWAC stuff. Oh yeah, FTH asked, did you buy any of DWA stocks? I bought DWAC at 18 and sold it at 98 and got out, and the funds have cleared.
University of Michigan
So-
1-year inflation final forecast 4.8%. Previous
There was
4.8%.
some expectation
University
that
of Michigan
DOAC would pump a
5-year
little bit
inflation
on
final,
Thursday,
previous
and like
2.8%.
there was some buying there in anticipation of that, but then it didn't take off. So I think that I am kind of like in a holding pattern on DOAC until a big event like shareholder vote or Donald Trump makes some statement about it. They tell us more about their business plan, right? Otherwise, I don't see a reason for them to do anything, for their stock to do anything. And if that's the case, then probably the order flow that we're most likely to see is profit taking. Does it make sense to trade volatile stocks when the VIX is low? That might be one way of doing it. I definitely remember at that time that a lot of people were just playing the options, right? Like in an environment like that, it makes it a really, you just sell puts, right? like sell puts is a really easy strategy in an environment like that, right? Everything just kind of bubbles up. Sell puts, because they bubble up but not very much, and so you don't lose too much. Another thing that I saw a lot of people do in that era, though, and this is why you see a lot of education on it in the futures education space, is that they would scalp the range. That they would go in and they would say, okay, I want to make 2 ticks and I'll risk 4. And that was a really high probability trade because there just wasn't very much volatility. So it just kind of went nowhere, and you'd almost always get it if you had a large enough stop. But there's problems with that strategy, right? When the volatility kicks back up. So again, we have to use the information that we have to see if we know anything that could predict changes in order flow, and if we start to see those changes, then we can take a trade. Nasdaq says, so you're protected by the lack of volatility. Exactly. Until you get February of 2018, where volatility just spikes through the roof. So that's the other strategy. I was thinking there was a strategy that was really popular that I thought was really risky, but worked really, really well. Now I remember. The strategy is go and get access to VIX futures and just short the VIX. That one worked really well. That was like you could really leverage up and make a ton of money. But on that one, I would be like, I would make your money and then run, because at some point that one blows up.
I'll be reading the University
At some point that
Michigan
one blows up.
Final first.
Okay, so we got consumer sentiment at the top of the hour here. The estimate for consumer sentiment is 71.4 versus a previous reading of 72.8. 30 seconds. This one might actually come out a little higher than expected. Let's see.
Ten seconds.
Yeah, the VIX has an order book. That's on a different exchange, though, I think.
71.7, higher than the forecast of 71.4. University of Michigan.
Interesting.
Conditions, 77.
I got a little excited there when I saw the micros move up 3 ticks, but it was 71.7 versus 71.4. So
Expectations, 67.9, 67.9, higher than the forecast of 67.2.
Here's the thing.
University of Michigan.
Oh, you know what? Why do I have
final,
that on? You shouldn't be able to hear that. I'm sorry. I feel bad about leaving it on all stream. I guess he didn't really say a whole lot today. Pretty much every modern market that you trade uses a limit order book NASDAQ trader. Pretty much every single one, or some variation of it. I mean, in the Taiwanese markets, they use more of a Walrusian auction, but it's still basically a limit order book. It's just like a quantized limit order book, kind of. That's what I would call it. I'm thinking about that skull thing again, because it really is, like, the funny thing about that was that I kind of argued in there, like, well, I was kind of arguing against Susie in the beginning, right? They're trying to get people to sacrifice their kids to the state. It's a hell of a gambit. That's what he argued, and I was kind of trying to argue against that it's not that they want to, you know, allow the state to control your kids' ideas, but that they just don't want ideas that they disagree, you know, that there's a few key ideas that they disagree with that there's been issues about over in school, and so they've taken that position. But then when we actually start arguing with them about it, actually it turns out that yes, he does want to use the school to try and influence people's beliefs, to try and push them towards beliefs that he thinks will lead to a better society. So I guess you were right, Uzi. I guess you were right. Nasib, Nicholas, Taleb, happy Friday, everyone. There are very few Twitter accounts that do not produce a lot of noise, conspiracy, sensationalism, undersampling, overreaction to underrepresented and low signal events. And by the way, a reminder that Snowden is a fraud. Oh, man. I forgot about that whole Taleb versus Snowden thing. Snowden's not my favorite person. It bothers me that Snowden left the country. It really bothers me. He should have stayed and faced the consequences and then gotten a pardon. That's what should have happened. So now, because he went over to Russia, I feel like that what good he did do from releasing that information never affects anything, you know? They're just able to bury it and pretend it didn't happen. Well, Ultra and ZB rising, yeah, it's flattening again, man. That flattening is coming in so hard, isn't it? Well, by the way, where we stopped down there, was there any kind of, well, it was a little bit, actually. There was the low from the 25th that we bounced off of. Well, they went through it by like one tick, but wasn't, only 500 contracts went into it. So that maybe that was just bouncing off of some resistance. But here again, the issue that I see is kind of the same issue that we had yesterday and really worked against me, right? Doesn't seem to take very much for them to move it very far. Does look like, though, when I said you should take 60.5 and maybe we'd be getting out, because I don't know if they'll go further, but they did go further, didn't they? Which just kind of shows why I'm not taking a trade. It's not that it's not moving, it's that I don't seem to be able to use the information that I have to predict what it's going to do. But I can look at what's going on here, and we can try and come up with the theories for the flows, keeping in mind that it's not taking very much volume to move us up or down. It's most likely end of month flows. So that's something important for us to remember, because that means that we could still see some downside action in the treasuries next week. So one of the things that I think we kind of need to sort out here is this end of month flows and all of that stuff, or is this a knock on the reflation trade, right? Because it's flattening a lot. Like the volume is definitely in the 30-year, right? There could be, if this moves much further, there could be some real chaos, man. Well, they're not quite going for it yet, but I'm also, you've seen here in the micros, not pulling back much. If I was to take a trade, I'd have to do it at maybe I could get it at 579, maybe 58. That one kind of looks like you'd have to just buy into it. Yeah. Cool. Easy peasy. Well, they didn't just careen through 17.5 into 18, but this is starting to look like a pretty strong trend, isn't it? Maybe we really do get like the full-on scenario that I was like, well, it could happen, but I'm not sure it's going to happen, where they just absolutely slaughter shorts up here on the upside. Microsoft passes Apple to become the world's most valuable company. Do you think that Microsoft is fairly valued? I've heard some people say that, Apple, there's no way that Apple can maintain this high valuation forever. But I never hear anybody say that about Microsoft. Why is that? Looks like they kind of need a little bit of a break before they can bust the 18s. By the way, the inflation expectations was 2.9. Oh, that was 5-year. Inflation expectations final 4.8. That's really high. But yeah, the order flow is probably almost the opposite that I would have expected from the news. So I don't think it's the news. I think that it must be end of month flow. The timing of it makes me think end of month flow, but the steepening makes me think that this is, a knock on future growth expectations. So I'm not sure what to make of it. Wow, according to Zero Hedge, the market would be at 2,700 without share buybacks? That might be true. That might be true. Well, they come back there a little bit. Now, yesterday, we saw these moves where it would do something like this, and then it'd turn around and we'd be all the way back at the lows again. And then, that happened yesterday. We had an auction that was kind of a little special. I think I was wrong on the auction because I was expecting the 7-year to be good, but it was not. Apparently, the 7-year is not special in repo, and so that's why there wasn't as much demand for it. But I do still see conditions in the order book for that it could do that. Although the liquidity on the buy side is a little bit better than it was. Now they're at like 39s. And there's some 38s and 4s up in here. There's a 4,500 of it, 21.5. So maybe somebody betting on that we really move up. We'd have come back a tick or two, but you wouldn't have gotten filled. Well, okay, now you would have gotten filled at 5.8. I see people on Twitter arguing about thwack. I gotta feel bad about that one because I really wanted to hold it, but it just let's look at the information that we know and what does the flows, or at least what I can see from the flows, tell us. And it said that it was done, so I got out, even though I really wanted to hold it for a long time. You know what happened to me yesterday? So remember, I forgot to say this. When we left the stream yesterday, I had it long, right? And I actually added a contract, and it went. I mean, it really, really went. So I was super happy about it. And I didn't take profits, and it came all the way back. And, I think that I kind of ignored some signs that it was time to take some sequential profits on it. So I felt bad about that. But also, It just kind of sucked that it came back, and I felt so heartbroken about it. I think I feel okay now, but after it happened, I felt like I had just been dumped or something. Have you ever gotten that feeling from trading? It was kind of weird because I had never felt that way about something before. I mean, I had felt like anxiety and stuff, but no, this time I felt heartbroken, like that the trade had dumped me. Retail trader favorite Meta Materials rallied Friday as investors apparently mistook it for Facebook after the heavyweight rebranded itself as Meta Platforms. That's hilarious. Okay, where is the ES at? It is at 45.74. Are you still long? It's good to know that you guys are still there and that I'm not just talking to myself. I shouldn't complain. I understand you guys are trading, and I make a conscious of, but today I was feeling a little nervous. Oh no, you got out. Okay. I never saw you put a trade in there, but I kind of thought, well, he might have taken one on the open. It's getting harder, wouldn't you say? Like, don't you go back and look at that and go like, well, man, I sure am getting lucky here because the market is not trending as much as it used to. I see a lot of tweets about how Microsoft is now the world's most valuable company. You know what though? I'm a pretty big fan of Azure. I've been using Azure with Terraform. I kind of like it. I've used AWS before and everything. I don't know. They're just kind of different, I guess. You had 65.25. That's a good trade. See, to catch in the thing that I find, well, maybe I shouldn't, but he keeps catching 10-point winners, which, if he still has the 2-point stops, is really quite incredible. I thought they said I've lost my keys, which is a big deal. It is anything that they say this can be a big deal. Another, though, I was having another thought about it, though, because I was thinking about when we were, when Ace was saying, well, I seem to make money off of purely technical analysis. But then I thought about, well, but the thing that he told me, he changed it. He doesn't use that anymore. And it sounds like the thing that he was looking at now was based on order flow. Which goes back to our theory that technical signals based on order flow are going to be more effective, and that because of the way that things are, it may actually be easier to find them as well. You moved the stop to 10. Oh, okay. Or maybe you meant the target to 10 points. Yep. See, here's Nassim. This is like really pertinent to what we're talking about. Probability of success at different scales. 1 year, 93%. 1 quarter, 77. 1 month, 67, 54. Right? When you start to get into technical signal on like a 1 minute or a 1 second chart, a lot of what I see through my stats just looks like noise. Then I found out I was looking for teeth as in a Halloween. That's hilarious, dude. Oh man. So last night was the trunk or treat, and the girls were at play practice, and my older boy, he just wants to play on the computer all the time. So she's like, I don't really feel like it. Let's not go. And I was sitting making some music, and then I was like, no, we have to go and take him. You know, what if everybody dies tomorrow or something and he never gets a chance to experience a real Halloween? We got to go and do it. So we went and took him. And he thought it was so weird. You could have made more. I mean, you could have, but it only went 5 points more than that. So I wouldn't. Like, the thing is that because you're not using, your targets are set and they're not based off of any kind of exit signal, you know, taking it where you did is probably the right call, because you'd be really mad if you'd still in it and you'd at 84. And well, I guess you're at where you got out right now anyways, but we did have a little bit of a drop just now, right? And then you might have been upset about losing the 5 points. Success has nothing to do with reality. In reality, all trades take place at the millisecond level. Well, what he's saying is that the shorter the scale is, the more noise you observe in the data. So, if you're going to try and basically, the argument here is technical analysis works better on higher time frames. Is really the argument, and part of that is just because when you go to 1 second, 1 minute time frames, you get so much more data. But I also think that a lot of it is just that, like, now the shorter the time frame is, the larger that the impact that the order flow has on your trade, until it basically becomes noise. At least it didn't rocket to 30 points. Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, like, right? Aces, in the current market environment, I think that it would be, at least this past week, I think it would be a little unreasonable to expect it to get to 30, right? Of course, we could say it could very, very much happen, but that would be like very much the edge case right now. Like, it's the ranges have very much contracted. Catching 10 points as often as you do is quite remarkable, I think. I don't know how many times you're taking losses to avoid that, because I haven't really seen you mention a loss in a while. But I'm sure that you're not trading like 80% win rate right now. That would just not that. I only say that just because that would be like unrealistic stats. If you are catching 80%, then we might need to look a little bit into it and watch out, because that might be something that tells us that it's not going to last for very long. $10 points a day. Yeah, if your average profit in the end, when you factor in all of your losses, is 10 points a day, and you're only talking about one lot, right? There's huge flow against you as a scalper, your stops get hit, but if there's flow with you, at least you won't get hit unless there was bigger flow as you got in. Right. What has your win rate been this month? Should go into the Ninja Trader stats. Best thing you should just go back into Discord, take a picture of that, and send it to us so we can look at it. But I should move that out of the way. He says no clue. It really bothers me that you don't look at the stats very often. Actually, you know what? The longer I've been into this, the less I look, actually. Because I don't expect the stats to change all that much. Oh, what if I was making... Well, it's not that. I don't know. I kind of feel like we are making a claim here, though, right, Ace? I think that the claim that we're making is that in the current environment, the method of scalping that he's using has some efficacy, and the claim that I'm making is that I think that it has largely to do with the amount that he's looking for, and the environment. I think helps too. I mean, if you buy this these days. Even though the ranges are contracted, it still looks like that if you just went long every time, that you would probably make money 60% of the time. Look at the 10-year. Well, they're kind of chomping at the bit to go higher, wouldn't you say? Although there's been a little bit of fight in it. But look at the bids. Look at all the bids behind us. Yeah, I've learned long ago to concentrate on good trades. Yeah, okay. Octavius is talking about the liquidity. It looks like that the liquidity has improved here. If that had happened like an hour ago, I think that I would have been taking a long here. But now that we've got like 30 minutes left where I can really focus on it, I'm hesitant to try and take a trade on it, because the last set of meta order that we saw was like at 8 o'clock. So often they will give it like 45 minutes for the order book to try and recover. So I would expect that if we are going to get another sequence in the meta order to push us up further to new highs, that it might come around like 850. I know that seems like a really crazy prediction, right? But we can actually make predictions like that pretty well. So let's see when we break the highs. If we break the high, do we break the high before 8:45 my time? Vatican abruptly cancels live broadcast of Biden meeting Pope Francis. Yeah. Wonder whose idea that was. It was Biden's. It is a tick down here again. So to what we were talking about before, if you didn't understand what I was saying to Octavius, that the liquidity is thickened up there, kind of suggests that an institution has come in, that a large bank has come in and is trying to execute a large meta order, and they will often come in and start providing some liquidity to assist in their operations. And so that could be an indication that we're going to get some degree of trend. And since the trend was up and it's the end of the month, so we have an idea a reason to think that there could be more, right? So if it's the end of month flow, that sort of thing can go all day. It's often so much that it takes them all day to execute. So that's why I'm saying, like, actually, I think that it might be okay to go long here. Is just, I only have 30 minutes. And then I won't be able to pay attention to it as much, and I know I won't be as effective after that, so that's why I'm a little hesitant to try and take it now. The dollar still looks strong. Where is that? Bring that dollar up. Yeah, dollar looks strong. They're not through 84 yet, though. There's a lot of stacking here, isn't there? It's funny, all of the... Oh, yeah, there we go. I should have scratched that. It sucks. It's okay. I don't know if scratching it was really... Like, I had the opportunity to just scratch it, and I did kind of feel like I should have seen more volume into 07.5 or 117.5, but wasn't so much of a big deal that I was like, oh, you really missed an opportunity there, Seth. Are you trading the 10? I'm still doing it in the 10. We really should be doing it in the 30, don't you think? Really should be in the 30, but look at in the micros, like the volume in the 30 just not there for some reason. So yeah, the ZB is the 30-year. So I mean, you can see people trading the 30-year, although it's not. I don't know. It's a little odd. The volume profile in the 30-year is a little odd. But when you look at the micros, you can see that like most of the guys in the micros are trading the 10-year and not the 30-year. So every time that it ticks up or down, I'm seeing those clicks and it's just a robot. Probably shouldn't read too much into it. I enjoyed the good job, Lewis. I really, I did not see that coming. I don't think. Well, yeah, like I was looking for a short and I said, nah, it doesn't look like the short is the right thing. But I never for a moment did I sit and think, well, maybe I should take the reverse of that then. And it's been a pretty good trend up, hasn't it? And we are kind of getting signs that it's going to go for more, but I still think it's a little bit too early. They could do it slightly earlier than 8:45. Usually they wait until after. That stacking and pulling at 16 is kind of grating on me. What's the tick value for ZB? It's like $31. It's a lot. It's a lot. That's what it is. They're going for it a little early here. So watch, if we get to 565 or even 56 before the top of the hour, then I should have taken the trade. What are the most volatile instruments in futures? I don't know. If I was looking for volatility, I would probably go to NQ. I don't know if that's the most, but. So cleared 18, a little bit has traded into 18.5. There's still not being like. I was actually expecting a little bit more excitement than that. I need to check the heater. Is the vent on the heater open? Because heater's on and it's getting hot. Maybe I just need like a different. Maybe I need a different vent cover, one that really, really is tight and just doesn't let any air through. They didn't take it there? Came back a little bit too quickly. That kind of makes me think that maybe it was just the retail and market makers jumping the gun and not a large meta order like what we're expecting to see. Ooh. Oh my. YouTube gaming creators, here's a video / blog post on what to expect from us in 2022. Gifted memberships. Oh, guys, that would be so effing cool. Because all you guys that are here every day, I am totally gifting you memberships. And then, except for Ace. Ace has to come into Discord if he wants to gift a membership, because otherwise he wouldn't use it. Expanding upon clips and making it seamless with shorts, and improved live discoverability and live monetization. I'm excited that those all sound like things that could make a big difference for our channel. Okay, now they're back up again. Could take 5-7. You notice that they really like to hang out around the even numbers, 5s and 0s. Yesterday, I was trying to make a chart that would just use the bid-ask prices to draw the chart, because there's so many places where there's just no volume in the micros still. But when I started looking into it, it didn't match up quite exactly right, because it was like if you had tick replay on, then they would give you the bid-ask prices, but only historically. So it wasn't going to work, so I give up. But I wish that it was there so that we could do a study to see, do they really like to stick around those prices? Because it seems like they do. This sounds like good stuff. European Parliament has launched a lawsuit against the European Commission for not using its new power to impose the rule of law principle. Okay. Biden sunglasses? Biden has a certain kind of sunglasses? Live redirect? Oh, really? I don't think I'll ever use that, though. Sorry. I would like to always just redirect you guys to one of my videos, but it won't let me. It has to be like a unlisted video, I think, because it never gives me any options. Okay. No volume there yet, but it sure looks like I should have taken it. Aviator dark lenses. Okay. I've never felt like there was anything too distinct about Biden's sunglasses, but I'm seeing some of these guys on Twitter. They're excited about the changes that YouTube is announcing. But when are we going to actually get them? Like, they say that, but like, is that going to be something that like doesn't happen for like 6 months? The uptick. Do you see that 21 bolt? Yeah, you see it pulling there, 21. I'm gonna do a no here and give it an extra tick of breathing room. Guess not. I guess not. Oh man, you gonna make me do this, huh? Do not do what I'm doing right now. I'm just thinking around. This is a little risky. CB traders jumped all over the ZN. Well, I think I haven't actually seen action in ZN that like screams like stop run to me yet. I kind of think they've got more in them. Like we did get the break of the highs earlier than I expected, but I don't think that like the meta order has really come through yet. The meta order they were looking for. I guess maybe we have had 10,000 contracts since we broke. Okay. The Wall Street Journal asks, is the metaverse mostly hype or a look at our dystopian future? Good question. Good question, the Wall Street Journal. Facebook gained on investors as I digested the company's new name. Yeah, I would expect Facebook to be up to date just based off of, because it was mentioned. You know what I mean? Ouch. So we're still seeing a little bit of a slippery market. I think I'm going to take like maximum risk here. Okay. Still seeing lots of clicks of whenever it ticks up or down. So by the way, remember we were saying we wanted 75 to 65. One spot 575 down to one spot 565. No volume went through there at 565. So if I had been in that long, I would have had to have taken profits early, which I'm not sure I would have done. So did I do the right thing by staying out on my live account? I mean, it did this scalp, but some two-way trade going through here between 18 and 18.5 now. A little bit of iceberging in the 5-year too. Some of the iceberging that we're seeing may be because of the spreads, because I can see that again, we flattened very, very heavily, but we are starting to see a little bit of reversion in that steepening coming back in through this pullback. Wow, okay. I'm surprised that it gave me that one. Still got 10 minutes. I'm a little, how am I at 600 in line? I would have thought I'd have gotten filled. It must have been more like 3,000 in line when I got in. I didn't really have a great, well, on some of these I got like 3,000 in the queue, so maybe I'm okay. But I kind of feel like when we tick up that a lot of that liquidity is just going to pull out of the way. They are iceberging quite a bit at 18. Freaking finally, thank you. Okay. Helps a little bit. Where's my, yeah, okay. Position window over here. Cool. Kinzinger announces he won't seek re-election. That's not going to be good for Democrats. He was a Democrat, right? Oh no, he's a Republican. I'm stupid. He's a Republican in the House from Illinois. Oh, that's actually really bad. I mean, I think Republicans still take the House anyways, but that's really not probably one of the worst things that could happen to Republicans right now in the House, at least. Because you already know it's going to be hard for you to take the Illinois district. E-mini shying away from a new high there, too, by the way. Trading Floor Audio tweets new data show Fed inflation story still unresolved. Reuters. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell outlined the arguments for why the current bout of U.S. inflation will be quote-unquote transitory. New data released on Friday showed the jury is still out. I mean, there's that whole thing about bond purchases that they're going to have in the next meeting. But it kind of does feel like at this point that one's kind of almost like a mute argument, don't you think? AMP Global, this day in financial history. Okay, what happened this day in financial history? Brought to you by AMP Futures. There's not an actual article. Oh, okay, here we go. What? No, this sucks. Okay. On 1929, on Black Tuesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, blah, blah, that's not a, well, okay, was that like on the same date, but it was a Tuesday? The first ancestor of the internet is born, ARPANET. Cool. That wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I apologize. What's happening at 11 Eastern Time? Budget balance? Canadian budget balance? Did you hear this? Could you hear this squawk there or something? Oh, at 9 o'clock is just when I cut the stream. That's why I was like, I can just leave these ones I don't have to do anything about. I think, though, it looks like in the end, even though there was some opportunity, I think I'm happy with my decision to not take any live trades today. I really should have been going short way somewhere up here, in the micro treasuries, but I just didn't see that one coming, so that's okay. But I'm happy with not taking that last trade, saying there's not enough time and everything for me to really get this before it works. And you can see that it was like really close, right? I think the liquidity looks okay in this area, so we may still see some of that. How do you say? We may still see some up action, but we'll see. I guess it's time for me to get going. So we'll just call today end of month flow. Month flow. I won't make it. I want to be like end of month flow delays inevitable interest rate rise, because that's kind of what I think is going to happen. But I should, because I don't actually 100% know. That's just kind of what I think might happen next week. So we'll see. Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. I know you were a little quiet. I'm sure that a lot of you guys were in trades there at the end though. So hope you did well. I'm going to try my hardest to get a video out this weekend, but we'll see. Might be difficult to find some recording time. But hey, I will see you guys on Monday. There's a big week next week, so get some rest. And in the meantime, stay profitable, friends.